Welcome to another episode of From Shadows to Strength podcast. I am your host, Tyson, alongside my co-host, Jay. If you have not already done so, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. Today, we are going to be talking about managing our emotions. I want to start off by saying your feelings are valid, but they're not always accurate. You can feel like a failure and still be succeeding. You can feel unloved and still be loved. Emotions are real, but they're not always reliable. So don't make a permanent decision based on temporary feelings. So Jay, to start us off, kind of go to our first point here, our first talking point, understanding emotions and their impact. So Jay, as someone who has faced some pretty significant challenges in your life, can you share with our audience and our listeners some of the emotions that you struggled with while growing up and in the military? You know, things like anger, fear, regret, sadness, anything like that.
Probably the biggest one I'd say is you deal with is anger, especially when you got if you suffer from childhood trauma and you carry that in the military. And then a lot of times in the military, nothing ever goes to plan. Nothing ever works out. Every exercise you do or mission or whatever, something is going to mess up. One of the guys that you work with is going to forget something, or he's going to do something wrong, and it's going to change the whole plan, or your vehicle's going to break down. And you're tired, you're hungry, you haven't slept, and the weather's bad. Everything just boils up, and it's just like a group of angry, testosterone-filled men that just want to get the job done, and everybody's snapping, everybody's losing their temper, and it makes the job probably take twice as long. It's not done well at all because it's done with temper, not with logic. And if we just, it's like if you go to the gym angry, like you're not going to have a good workout. You're going to lift too much heavy weight. You're going to not have good form. If you do construction in your house, I've worked on a project in my house, lost my temper on something that wasn't working, finished it, wasn't right,
Sounds
had to
like
take
me
it
with
apart.
IKEA furniture. Give me a piece of IKEA furniture to put together. Bro, it's like I feel like I'm on the highest dose of like the roid rage that comes out, I'm just like, "Wah!" I feel like George Costanza's dad and Kramer, yelling, "Serenity now, serenity now."
Yeah.
It's you're absolutely right. I think for most men, and this is something that's always stuck with me is the analogy a gentleman had shared. I believe it was on TikTok, and he was talking about the two wolves that men have that we get when we kind of hit puberty, and it's kind of chained to our wrists figuratively. And on one wrist is a wolf. I like the term dogs. I love dogs. The one dog is one of anger. So I would say, like your anger, your temper, that part of the emotion. And then the other dog, the other wolf, is lust and desire. So it's kind of, we hit puberty, we're pretty much either thinking with this head or the other one. And it's really important for young men to realize and recognize this early on. And I mean, for even men, as I got older and I actually started to work on myself, it's something that I become aware of and really try to rein them in, pull them in. So when you were talking about that struggle in the military and in the field and stuff like that, and you personally dealing with that anger, would you say that there was definitely a higher risk of maybe things potentially going wrong because of that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I've never seen an accident happen when people were calm, quiet, and thinking about the job. I've never seen an accident happen. The only time accidents happen in the military all the time is when you're frustrated, you're behind in your timings, things are taking twice as long as you planned it. Nobody wants to be there. It's like you've had enough of the situation, whatever it is, whether you're construction of a house or doing this. It's just something's taking way more time, way more this, and you're just getting more and more frustrated. And that's when accidents, that's when frustrations, that's when injuries happen at the gym or at work or anything. It's always out of anger. Like I said, I've never seen a calm, cool, collective group have an accident. Never.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I don't think a lot of listeners realize this, but like you have to keep your head and your wits about you in the military, especially when you're on a mission, because you can't just do whatever you want, right? Like there's still conduct. Is it conduct of war? Is that the right
Yeah,
term?
there's rules of war. It's kind of like the Geneva Convention. There's rules of war that we follow. Especially for me, I work with explosives. So I have to do all the math calculations for explosive, how much explosives to use, the safety distance I need for everybody. And if I'm frustrated, if I'm angry, if I'm rushing the job and I screw that up, well, then I could put lots of people's lives in jeopardy and I'm 100% responsible.
Yeah, so important to manage your emotions in I'd say a very high stress situation. So yeah, thank you for sharing that with us, Jay. Yeah, for myself, like being in prison, I always think of the first part of my sentence, especially when I was in provincial. My anger was still a really big problem, and I was in a very high stress situation. I didn't know potentially what my future was. I knew I was looking at a murder charge. I had been arrested and charged with second degree murder. And I knew that, that carried a minimum of 10 years, a life imprisonment with 10 years, and it could eventually, get brought up to first degree. That's what they had wanted to do had I gone into the preliminary part of the trial. They were going to bump it up to first degree. And that was because the victim died in the process of a robbery, basically. So there's a reason for them to be able to upgrade it, and they made that mistake when they originally arrested me and charged me. So, knowing that and all that stuff, my emotions were very raw. There was a lot of fear of the unknown. There was so much regret, like so much regret and anger and frustration. And I countless nights you're replaying, and I'm sure you've been through this in high stress situations, especially after you finish them, replaying it in your head, what you did, maybe what went wrong, what you should have done better. And it always goes back to emotion. It always goes back to what was the main emotion that was active at that time and how it actually took away from your productivity and your peace. And now, like saying peace and prison or peace and war, those are two things that don't seem to go hand in hand. But I'm talking more in the internal, right? Your inner peace. And I mean, I think even in high stress situations, trying to maintain a sense of inner peace is really essential. Is that something that they ever teach you or talk about when you're, doing your training and stuff like that for, let's say, those high intense situations you might find yourself in?
Yeah, like they talk about, like once you hit those certain situations, they talk about breathing, how if you control your breathing right before you go into a high stress, before you get into a firefight or something, if you can control your breathing, if you can take even like just 10, 15 seconds, change some of your breathing habits, just your vision, the sounds, kind of block out some stuff. It's amazing how much it can calm you and change you. And it works a lot of the times, but even I'm 51 now, and even with all the experience I have, I still lose it and get frustrated and have to pull myself back. Like when I was at the gym and I was going to go into your office, I put my bag down somewhere with my car keys because I had to open
Yeah,
your
I remember
office and
that one.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then couldn't find my car keys after the workout because I put them down on a bench I never did before, took them out of my pocket, put it down. I lost my shit trying to find these car keys. Just lost my temper. So angry, yelling at myself. Where the fuck did you put your car keys, you idiot? And da da da. And it wasn't until I finally relaxed, retraced my steps, and then I found them exactly where I had left them. But for
That
20
moment of
minutes,
clarity is what you needed, just to calm down.
yeah. All I had to do was just sit down for maybe 30 seconds, take a breath, just do a slow look. Where did I walk when I first came in? There's my car keys are right there.
Yeah, fear, anger, all those things, they paralyze logic. They
Yeah.
literally stop you dead in your tracks. Like
Yeah.
your ability to process thought clearly at that moment is gone. So
100%.
like for our listeners, again, so many people are dealing with these different emotions that we've talked about. So it's really, really important for the listeners, I think, to differentiate between those feelings and the actual circumstances. So for our listeners, some tips, on what we just covered is identifying the emotion. So what are you feeling? Is it anger? Is it fear? Is it, anxiety? Like it could be a mixture. It could be a few, right? It's not always one. Sometimes it's multiple emotions that we're feeling. And then, for you, you need to next kind of examine and identify your trigger. Was it external? Was it someone around you that did something, that said something? Or was it internal? Was it an internal thought, internal dialogue? I think one of the big things that has set me off constantly was my inability to manage my negative self-talk, right? And that was a big, and I know so many men, right? That inner negative self-talk that like, oh, you idiot, and like, oh,
Yeah.
you failure, you piece of, and you're just and then it just the emotion rises with it. Or you're there, you're ragging on yourself, you're putting yourself down. You can't think clearly when you're doing that. You're thinking stupid.
Yeah.
Next would be assessing the situation. So analyze the actual circumstances and not just your feelings surrounding the emotion. So ask yourself, like, what's happening right now? What facts are supporting my emotional response? And this helps you get grounded in your current reality. Because again, a lot of the time we're not being present. We're either focused on something that's in the past, and that's where that frustration can come, because we're focusing on something that's already done. It's already out of
Right.
our control. Like, you can't do anything to change it. Or we're focusing on something that's not even happened yet. We're focusing on something in the future. So, like, bring yourself back to the present. Okay. And then challenge your negative thoughts. Our emotions, they're often stem from cognitive distortions. So years of conditioning or negative thinking patterns. And you need to examine the validity of your thoughts and challenge any irrational beliefs that you're dealing with. And then, of course, the last one that I found really interesting is reality check. So seek evidence for and against emotional responses. So this can involve discussing your feelings with a trusted friend, and I think that's always been such a good thing with you and I, is when you've had a tough day, especially after you were tired, your PTSD, all the things you've been through in your life, which is more than I think anyone that I ever met. And I've been through some shit in my life, and your life has definitely had way more in it than mine, is having that friend, having someone to talk to, having that support system. And if you don't have that, then my next one that I always recommend to people that I work with, because it worked for me when I was incarcerated, is journaling about the situation. Journaling, it has a rap where it's like, oh, that's such a weak thing to do, but there's nothing weak about self-awareness. The more aware of your triggers and what your issues are, the better you can master oneself.
Yeah.
So you need to get a full picture. And our emotions and our feelings, they're often just one-sided. So sometimes just stepping back and know that there's two sides and getting a clear picture is going to really help. I think the people that are listening right now, I know they've helped us, and I always want to pass on some tidbits of learned and learned experience and practical wisdom. I don't know if I want to say wisdom coming from me. No, I'm just kidding. I got my moments.
Yeah.
So next, we're going to talk about triggers and their roots. So Jay, in your experience, what are some common emotional triggers you've encountered in high stress situations as a veteran?
Oh, geez. I don't know. It's kind of a hard one. It's like, because when I'm in the military, triggers is like when someone's not, one of your guys that work for you isn't doing his job like you asked him to do, or something, you wanted him to bring something here and he didn't, brought the vehicle the other way and it gets stuck or something. You knew it'd get stuck that way. So it just triggers you and it just gets you so angry, But then once I got out and with PTSD, I mean, sometimes it's traffic, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's annoying music on at the gym. Like sometimes it's just some guy beside me in the gym banging a weight or doing something, and he's allowed to do. He's doing just fine, whatever he's doing, but it just triggers you. It annoys you. For some reason, it's setting you off. And it's like, if I let it get the best of me, maybe I get into an argument with him and he's just doing a normal workout and he has no idea
Mm,
what's going on with me. And I let my emotions take over it. And let's say I get suspended from the gym for it, or you get into a traffic altercation, you get into a brawl in the middle of the street, and then that guy gets hurt and you get charged, and your whole life is different now.
yeah.
There's just certain triggers that can, if you don't take that 30 seconds you need, They either, go for a walk, take a deep breath, just rethink it in your head a little bit. Your life can go down such a bad path, as you know, and I know from mistakes I've made. And so taking that 30 seconds, just analyzing that trigger, like, okay, is it really that bad? Is it just I'm having a bad moment? And instead of making a whole bad day, bad week, bad year, maybe this is just a bad 10 minutes. I'll go in the change room and just decompress. So I'll go do something else on the other side of the gym where it's a little quieter. Maybe I'll just open the back door for a sec, get some fresh air on my face, go put some cold water on my face and just almost reset the battery,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Just a
So,
kind of a mental reset.
yeah. And near the end of my
Whatever you can
career,
do. Yeah. Fast. Sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, near the end of my career, like the young kids would come in and do something stupid. I would just be like, instead of just yelling and harping and screaming like they did in the World War II movies, and the younger days, I'd be like, okay, come here. Why do you think I asked you to do it this way? Look what happened because you did it that way. And then I would explain more of why I wanted him to do this way. I said, look, you went this way, you got stuck, you broke this happened. Do you understand? So it's sometimes the yelling and screaming, people just turn it off and tune it out, you know? So like you, when you yell at me to do one more set, I'd tune it out
Me yell at
at the
you?
gym.
Come on.
But if you say, hey, Jay,
Folks,
maybe one more.
listeners, he's lying. He's exaggerating. He's really sensitive, especially on leg day. So please, he's just looking for emotional support right now. And I'd appreciate it if you don't give it to him. No, anyways, one thing I was actually kind of thinking in my head while you were saying this, and I was going to save it for the end, is one of your triggers is when that one guy at the gym wears the army green.
Yeah.
You want to trigger Jay, wear army green around him.
At the
Especially
gym.
on leg day, you'll see him start to twitch and like.
Or wear your old army boots in the gym or anything army in the gym while you're working out. Just wear that and watch it trigger me. I'll get 10 more
Yeah.
reps.
Gee, I said 2 more. What are you doing? This is like 8, 9, 10 more reps. Like, oh, okay. Guy walked by with a military duffel bag. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Yeah, and like it's true. It's funny for myself. One of the big things when I came out of prison, because while I was incarcerated, so I'll give a few examples of triggers that I had to deal with and that I had to manage and work through. Was one of the first ones was orange, the color orange, and I've told you this, and that's because in provincial. So in OCDC, and for anyone, that stands for Ottawa Carleton. What is it? Ottawa Carleton Detention Center. Ottawa Carleton Detention Center. So that's the provincial or the remand facility for Ontario, basically. If you're locked up in Ottawa, Canada, and when you are incarcerated there, when you're being held there, they give you an orange jumpsuit, orange T-shirt, and orange shorts. So everything you have is this bright, obnoxious orange. So all day, every day, all you're seeing is this orange. And one of the big things for me after that was the color orange would literally just get under my skin. And then you'd also have guards that would continuously rattle their keys, jingle their keys.
Yeah.
When they would be doing their rounds. So especially during the night, right, you're trying to sleep and they're purposefully, intentionally jingling their keys to wake you up. Now, look, I'm not saying feel sorry for me. I did a dumb thing and that's the price I had to pay. But it's things, it's conditioning, right? The color, the keys, the noise. Another thing that actually used to really set me off was parole officers especially in maximum and medium security, because of the way that the institutions are set up. The hallways everything echoes. So a female parole officer, and I think a lot of them did this because they liked the attention, they would wear high heels. So you'll hear, as an inmate, you'll hear this talk, 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 and it's just echoing throughout the hallway. So what do you do? What's your what do you think your normal reaction is going to be?
You're going to get up and look.
Yeah. You're in the hallway. You hear this fast walk. And I'm telling you, for some odd reason, I swear to God, they all walked friggin' 5 miles an hour in those heels. Especially if you're like way ahead of them, they would like speed their walk up. And then of course, when you hear steps coming up behind you, you're naturally in prison. You're always looking over your shoulder. So what do you think I do? I look. Then they give you this scowl like, oh, how dare you look at me? And it's like, well, what do you expect?
Yeah.
I feel like you're running up on my back. So of course I want to know who's coming up behind me. So, just things that I had to really work through and deal with, like there are certain songs too. I remember there was this album that I loved listening to when I was in provincial, when I was waiting sentencing. It was an Armin van Buuren album for anyone who likes electronic music. And I had that album pretty much on repeat for the year that I was waiting to get sentenced. And I ordered that album when I got to Max. I ordered that album from HMV. For anyone who remembers, we used to have stores that sold CDs way back in the day. For some of the younger listeners, they're like, what's HMV? So I was able to order CDs, and my ex actually kept pretty much all my music. So I had to rebuild my music collection while I was incarcerated. That was one of the first albums I bought for myself. I put it in and I hated it. Why? Because it made me think of all the things I went through that first year. And it hasn't been until I'd say about a year ago, one of the songs that I really love, my favorite song on that album, they did a remix of it, I guess, recently, and it played on the radio. It was the first time in like 15 years from hearing that song where I didn't get like triggered and angry. Right? So a lot of the time, it's important, I think, for us to recognize the triggers that we are encountering in our day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Right? There, a lot of the time, it's things that have been conditioned, we programmed ourselves to react a certain way to these things. So you need, there's a few things I'm going to share now with the listeners. So first, you need to increase self-awareness. You need to recognize triggers and allowing yourself to pause, like you said, and you talked about that, right? Pause and reflect before reacting. If you see someone doing something, someone says something, whatever it is, pause before reacting impulsively. So you want to foster a more thoughtful decision-making process. Next is reducing reactivity. So again, know your triggers. It becomes easier to manage your reactions if you know your triggers. So instead of responding automatically, which is what most of us do, right? Most of us, we tense up, right? We tense up when something happens. And kind of use an illustration the other day is if you think about it, I want you to right now with me, Jake, can make a fist. All right, so make that fist now. Hold that fist. Hold it tight. Does that take energy and effort?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, now open it. All right. So which one's easier? Holding the fist
Open.
or open, right? So a lot of the time, our triggers are things that are connected to our past. And this is why I'm talking about it briefly here. I'm going to talk it probably in multiple times in other podcasts, is letting go of the past. Because that's what we're holding on so tight onto something, onto these triggers. Just let it go. Know that they exist and then do something. Work towards letting them go. Heal from it. Because this drains. If you do this all day, this is how you are all day. You know how much energy you're putting towards this?
Yeah.
Right? Holding on to something that someone said 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or something that your spouse might have said this morning, or that your kid might have done this morning, and this is you all day after that response, right?
Yeah.
And then we wonder, well, why do I have no energy? Why am I so pissed off? Why am I not productive? Because of this.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Right?
It's good.
You're triggered. It's just take a second and breathe. Just
Yeah.
let it go. Let it go. Allow yourself to get centered. I think that is such an underutilized tool, is just find your center again. And that all comes back to being present, being in the moment. Take a second. Come back to where you are. And breath work, and we'll talk about this actually in a I think it's coming up here. But breath work is honestly is a game changer. It can be literally 5 breaths.
Yeah.
Can completely reset everything. So the next thing too is better emotional regulation. So recognizing those triggers and then being responsible in a healthy way, kind of like I just talked about. And this prevents decisions being driven by those intense emotions. And it allows you to make a more stable and rational decision and choice. And then of course, improve interpersonal relationships. So understanding these personal triggers will improve communication with others. And I can't think of, a more important thing in life is being able to communicate effectively with those around us, especially those that we love. Right? Because if we're, I think, I'm going to pull it up really quick. It was actually my quote for the day for Instagram, and here it is: always be careful with your words, because you never know how many times it's repeating in someone's head.
Yeah.
Right? So our communication with those around us, whether it's our spouse, whether it's someone at work, whether it's our kids, or even how we communicate with ourselves. And then last is empowerment and control. So by identifying and acknowledging triggers, individuals, we're gonna feel more empowered to take control of how we act and how we react. And this leads to, I would say, better alignment with who we're trying to be. I hope that anyone listening to this podcast is actively trying to work on improving themselves as a person, maybe trying to develop a new identity. Maybe someone who's been angry all their life. Well, I want to be less angry. So that means that your thoughts, that means your actions have to align. You have to do everything intentional in order to work towards that identity. So the third point today is managing emotions in difficult situations. So I know we've talked about this a little bit, but Jay, what strategies and techniques have you found effective in managing overwhelming emotions in high pressure situations? I know you talked about breath work, but is there anything else you find that's really helped you?
It's like you can't rush into something. Like I understand sometimes yeah, you have to go, you have to be fast, you have to do whatever. But sometimes just taking that like even 5 seconds before you do something and just have a little plan in your head or just a little pause, do a quick scan or whatever, and then commencing it changes so much and makes it so much better. I've seen so many guys, they get so worked up and they just go. They're in the doors or in the next room or whatever, and they're just going too fast, no plan, and they get shot, like in an exercise and stuff like that. But the guys that maybe just take like even 3 to 5 seconds to just look around, think, just a little bit of think, one breath, and then go in with a bit of a plan they have in their head. Now plans change. They say, everybody has a plan till you get punched in the face.
Yeah.
But if you have that little bit of plan, maybe you don't get that punch in the face, or maybe it helps you avoid that punch in the face. But if you run in there with nothing, you're running right into that punch to the face, 100%. So my younger years, as I say, full of piss and vinegar, go, 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 not thinking, not seeing the whole horizon. Now, when you get older and you get some experience, you're like, okay, take that breath, take that 3 to 5 seconds, check things out, determine where you want to go, determine where you want to work out in the gym. Take a little plan, like, oh man, that guy annoys me. Okay, then go start over there. Take 3 seconds, make a plan. I'm going to start with that machine and then I'll go there. Oh, I don't want to see that person. Oh, that music's horrible. Okay, I'll take a bit of time, go get my headphones, put it on, listen to my own music today. You know, that traffic on that road's killing me. That stupid pop. You know what? I'm going to take an extra 4 minute drive and go around, take a different street because the traffic on that street's always getting on my nerves. I'll look up ways and see what the traffic's doing, see what the best route for me to go is. Is one maybe 5 minutes longer, but it's moving? Like I would take slow traffic over dead stop traffic any day. So
Well,
as long as I'm,
absolutely.
yeah. So I'll look on my phone. It says this one's dead stop. This one's 5 minutes longer, but it's constantly moving. I'll take the 5 minutes longer and constantly move because I know what it's going to do for my brain, my calmness, take a breath. If I'm stuck in traffic, I'll start on finding my favorite music, put it on, whatever I need to chill out and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think those are all great tips. You said punch the face. I think for you guys, it's probably more like getting shot in the chest. It's a little bit more extreme for the military boys.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Is taking a moment and thinking before acting. And I love the fact that you said using um your ways, right? For me, I use Google Maps all the time. So I will always check, especially if I'm maybe a little short on time, what's the best route in traffic?
Yeah.
on getting there, and then try to opt for the best one. And then sometimes just accepting, okay, you know what? I screwed up. I didn't give myself enough time.
Yeah.
I'm going to, maybe message my client, hey, sorry, I might be running a minute late. And then while on my way to my appointment with one of my clients, put on that playlist, put on that podcast, do some breath work, do something intentional so that you're not sitting there gripping the steering wheel. And again, we're going to bring this in, right? We have a
Yeah.
death grip on the steering wheel. We're tense. It's all the way up into our shoulders. And then we get there and I'm not present for my client. I'm focused on something that's been bothering me. And this applies to everyone across the board. How we prepare, how we deal, how we manage our emotions can really severely affect not just the moment, but our entire day. And if you have a bit more time, another thing again is journaling with that self-awareness. Sometimes even, and now that I have the tool available, I didn't have it in prison when I was really big into journaling. So I would just kind of make note in my mind. And then when I would get back to my cell, I would write it. But if this is something that the audience, that the listeners is really trying to work towards, is even just open up a note in your phone and just do like a little voice note, right? Do a little,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
just talk about the minute that you're in,
Right.
what triggered you, what's bothering you, practice that self-awareness. And I mean, look, I'm not advocating for you doing this when you're driving, but you can open up the audio and just talk it out, let it go. Right.
Yeah.
That's a great way in dealing with, managing your emotions in difficult situations, because we have to learn to kind of retrain our brains. And it's always going to come back to that conditioning. We're
Yeah.
conditioned. We're conditioned. I watched my grandfather, especially growing up, where how he managed his anger, which was never good. And I'm sure you witnessed that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you saw your dad and your parents handle anger the wrong ways. Did it
Or
help you?
they take it out on their kids, take it out on the house, take it out on alcohol, like all of it. And then you see it, you learn it, and then now it's in you. So, it was always that generation that has to like break the cycle. And it sucks
Yes.
being the one that breaks the cycle. But if you don't, it's just going to keep on going. But you being the guy who breaks the cycle is the hardest bloody thing you're going to have to do. Trust me. I had to break the cycle from my parents. I see other guys that have had to break the cycle that joined the military that were just beaten by their parents or neglected or this, that. And just, once you break the cycle, you're in such a better road. But the hardest thing to do is to break that cycle 100%. I don't want anybody to think it's going to be easy. I
No,
don't want
it's not.
anybody to think, and it may take a long time. Like things don't happen overnight. Could take years to break the cycle. But if you don't keep working at it and let the cycle win, you're just going to go down the same road. And then you're just going to be on your deathbed regretting so much stuff.
You're hitting it right on the head. Like the people that the reason I started this podcast with you is to educate people, to help people understand that the road to redemption, the road to bettering yourself is much like I love the analogy. I was thinking the analogy that the Bible provided. If you don't believe in God or whatever, that's not really what I'm trying to get at here. But there is an analogy in the Bible that I think is very fitting here, is that there's a road that is very narrow and few are the ones finding it. And that's the road that I'm trying to get my listeners to take, this very, very narrow road of redemption. And the other road, broad and spacious, is one that is leading off into self-destruction, which is where most people are headed. That's the road that most people are taking, right?
Yeah.
Because change, accountability, responsibility, managing your emotions, these are all really hard things. And it takes daily effort over and over. And I'm telling you, you're going to fail at it again and again and again. And I still say stupid things, still let my anger get the better of me at times. Like it's a work in progress. We've been able to tame all of the wild beasts that exist in this world, but we have yet to be able to successfully bridle our tongue.
Yeah.
So one thing and that all relates to emotions, right? We have yet to be able to manage the things that come out of our mouth. And
Yeah,
man,
look
I've said some things. I'm like,
yeah,
what?
look at you in your office. What was it the other day? Open the door and you were frustrated. You're like, "Oh, people keep coming in. I can't get my work done." Da, da, da." You were all, you were just having one of those days. People kept coming in. You couldn't
Yeah.
get work done on the laptop. You had
Trying
your
to get
little,
focused on something. And it's like, it was like literally from the time I stepped in, I didn't have a break. And I had this thought in my head, like I'm trying to get it out.
yeah,
And regretfully with my ADHD, I need to get like really focused, but I also need like just a few minutes to do it. But it was just
yeah,
one of those mornings
yeah,
where I had, client after client. And after I got that out, fortunately it was you. After I got that out, it was just, it allowed me to kind of recenter and be like, okay, stop, breathe. It's all good.
yeah,
At least, and this is kind of where gratitude is always so important. I'm grateful that I'm busy enough to sometimes be incapable of fulfilling a task.
yeah,
Right? Did it piss me off? Yep. But look at the other side. Right? You're pissed off at your wife, you're annoyed with your kids. At least you have a relatively good marriage, I hope.
yeah,
Right? At least you have children. There's a lot of people who don't have that privilege, that blessing. We sometimes get too hyper focused on those things, and it kind of goes with, you know, the audience. There's a harsh truth. You have to understand that a lot of the time you didn't have a bad day. Okay, guys, you had a shitty 5 to 10 minutes, and then you decided to indulge in it.
yeah. You let it ruin your whole day. Yeah,
Yeah. Right. It's usually when we're pissed off, usually when we have that moment, it's literally just a moment. It
yeah,
was it was maybe 1 minute, but it's no more than 10 minutes in a given day where you're having a bad moment. Unless it's like a really long fight with your wife.
yeah,
Like that can happen. Yeah, that can happen. But the majority of the time it's a very, very small window where we're having that moment. But we don't stop, we don't center, and we just indulge. We allow our emotions. And a lot of the time it's not even that that incident. It's again, we're still holding on to that past, right? We're dragging that into this incident, and it just boils over. So nothing that should have been that aggravating, but we allow it.
yeah,
So, for the listeners, really think of the potential consequences. Really think long and because you said it yourself, punching someone in the face. You get upset, you punch someone, you get into a road rage incident. Not even you hitting someone. What if someone gets out of the vehicle as bigger and stronger and just has nothing to lose?
yeah,
And now you might not just get your ass handed to you, you might end up dead.
yeah,
Right? For what? Because someone cut you off? Because someone flipped you the bird? Because someone had a bad 5 minutes and then
yeah,
you indulged in it?
yeah,
You indulged in their morning?
yeah,
You drank from their cup?
yeah,
So the next talking point is that I think this is a big one is the illusion of isolation. So Jay, I think a lot of our listeners too, they feel alone in their struggles. So have you ever had that kind of feeling in your life with the things you've been through in the military, outside the military, where, you just feel alone and like no one's going to understand?
yeah. I think everybody gets that. Everybody always thinks like people don't understand my problems. People won't understand if I talk to them. If I tell them my problems, they're going to think, "Oh, why you all worked up over that? That's so small." But in your head, it's big. I think everybody feels like that. And people think you need to talk to everybody about your problems, And sometimes you just need that one person or even two, just the two people that you can call. Like I have my one best friend. I always just send a text to. I'll be like, "Do you have 5 minutes? I just need the vent." And they're like, "Sure." And I'll give them a call and I could vent on the phone, da da da, and they won't even say a word. and I'm just venting, and I'll be like, "Oh," they'll be like, "You good?" "Yeah, I'm good, thanks." You know what I mean? And that's all I needed to do, and I hang up the phone. I feel like I'm in a better mood or something, and same with that person calls me, can vent to me, and sometimes I can say something, sometimes I don't need to say anything. You just need to be there for that person, you know? But if you don't try to have that one friend that you could talk to or that one person, you're going to think nobody understands. You're going to think nobody's going through what I'm going through. Everybody's going to think I'm weak. Everybody's going to think I'm weird if I tell them I'm struggling with this stuff. Like when I first started training with you, I didn't want to tell you anything. I thought you'd think I was just this wimpy old military guy that can't handle it, you know? But I didn't know your past. You didn't know mine. It wasn't until we started talking. I was like, oh, shit, I could tell the types of stuff. And I can let them know how I'm feeling today. And I've had incidents at the gym where I broke down and I just could not train or whatever. And you didn't say a word. You just said, "Hey, I know one of your favorite exercises is arm day. Let's go over here and just do some arms. We won't say shit. We'll just do some arms." And that was one of the best days I had to help recover. I'm like, I'm not going to push you. I'm not going to talk if you want. Let's just go over here and go on one of your favorite machines. Oh, and it's just finding that person that you can talk to who probably won't even give you any advice, but they will just listen. And sometimes just that's how you start. That's just having that one person to listen, having that one person you can tell your problems to that won't judge you or anything else. And then you go from there, you know? It's like I always say,
Yeah,
start small, do the baby steps. And as you get more comfortable, maybe start opening up more, maybe start talking more, and maybe they'll have good advice for you and you keep going in life. But you got to start small with baby steps with one person or even two and just go from there.
I think that's I think that's brilliant because a lot of the time, the person who's talking, who's venting, they're maybe not looking for advice.
Now,
They're just looking they're just looking for, and I kind of hate using the term safe space because I don't believe this world is safe. I really don't. I think you and I have had our kind of eyes open, right? I think the majority of people have their eyes wide shut,
yeah,
to steal a title from a movie. But everyone's like, "Oh, I'm aware." No, you're not. You have no idea what goes on in this world. You think you do, but I think most people, especially in North America, are pretty ignorant to what's going on outside of the world. And you and I have seen some shit. We've seen death firsthand. And that in itself is it's not natural. Let's just put it that way.
yeah,
It's not a natural part of life. So when you're dealing with one of those days is holding space for somebody. I like to call it, my term for it is a training space, because it's not so much that I'm training the person I'm working with or even training my client. It's allowing my client to unlearn some of their behavior, even just recognizing it. So sometimes when my clients are going off, it's just like, okay, so, like I start asking them some questions.
yeah,
So a lot of the time we have the answers.
yeah.
We're just not focused on them. We're not focused on what we could do,
Or
right? We're
minds are
too, we're
too,
too,
yeah,
yeah,
too
we're too
blinded.
focused on the negative, right? We
Yeah.
can't focus on how to solve it. We're just raw.
They call it the red. You've gone red. Like, when
Yeah,
dogs go into the red zone, you go to
yeah,
the red zone where you don't want to listen. And sometimes what people say can't even get in there because you're just so like in that red zone. So yeah, 100%.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I really have felt honored and privileged, and I actually started doing that when I was in prison, guys coming into my cell and just talking. Just I learned to kind of like hold space. And I realized like the best thing you can do, I think, especially if let's say you do want to give advice or you do want to genuinely help someone better their situation, and maybe you're qualified because maybe you've been in a similar situation, is just make sure that you seek to understand before you seek to be understood. Right? Listen first. Listen, let them finish and really think, is this something that I'm qualified to speak about? Because if you're not, then just don't say anything.
Yeah.
It's okay. Just be there, be that shoulder of support to that person. That's all they need.
Yeah, I get my
That's it.
friends call me all the time about work. Just go on about bad thing that happened at work. This one coworker, da 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 da, da, and this friend of mine was telling me about it, and I just listened because I don't work in the mechanic industry. They were just so frustrated about this job and this and that. And I just listened and listened, and then at the end, she was like, "Oh, I feel a lot better. Thank you." I was just so worked up. I was like, "Yeah, no, it's fine." I'm like, can't really give you much advice on that because I don't work in that field and stuff, but you can vent to me anytime. You could tell me the issues, and then, sometimes that solves so much of it just by sitting there and listening. You don't need to be the psychiatrist for anybody. You don't need to give advice all the time. Sometimes you just need to be that shoulder, be that 5-minute shoulder.
Yeah, I think one of the best tools, or not tools, one of the best pieces of advice I can give the male listeners. Hopefully, we have some female listeners, but but one of the best I think kind of approaches for guys, and I learned this being married to my wife. A lot of the time, my wife will just, hey babe, how's your day going? Right? I'm always curious how her day was. She's maybe having a day, and she'll just unload on me. And of course, being the man, my brain, my logic brain's like, oh well, honey, you just need to do this, 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 and this. And she's like, I don't need your advice right now. I know what I need to do. I just need to vent. And I'm like, right, right. Sometimes the people that are talking to us, they know what to do. They just need to verbalize it. They just need to release it. And what they're doing, again, go back to that closed fist, right? We're that space for our loved ones, our friends, our spouses, coworkers, whatever. When they start talking, this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're slowly opening the hand. They're slowly letting go of that anger, of that tension, right? And that's what we're there for. We're maybe even just a sounding board. Because a lot
Yeah.
of the time when we're talking, right? We're talking, but now because we're verbalizing it externally, not internally. Because internal dialogue tends to be very negative, but when you start to verbalize things externally, you start to gain clarity on things. Like, oh my God. A lot of the time too, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I felt that way. Like, that's just silly,
Sometimes they solve
but
their own
release
problems.
it. No, honestly, there's very little I have to help my wife with. She's solid as hell, and she's taught me so much. She's honestly made me a better coach, a better mentor. In a way, I think she's mentored me in a lot of things that I just wasn't aware of. Because I realize, like, there's not always an answer to, you don't have to have, sorry, not that there's not an answer. There is an answer, I think, to most things, but you don't have to have an answer to everything. It's okay not to share the solution,
Yeah.
right? Just, just be the ears.
Yeah.
So I think one of our last, one of our next things to talk about here is redefining success and love. Jay, reflecting on your, personal journey, how have your definitions of success and love evolved over time, especially in light of like your past experiences?
Peace. That's all I can say is peace. It's the only word I need to say. Peace in my mind, peace in my home life, peace at the gym, peace with my small group of friends I have. It's just peace and no drama. Like, just finally finding peace in my head. Like you say, letting go of my childhood trauma, military trauma, all the trauma, trying my best to let it go and just being at peace has got to be the best thing I could ever say to anybody. If anybody ever, like you or anybody ever asks me, oh, what? Peace. I'll just say peace, like going on Instagram, but not for the negative, for comedy. And I love seeing comedy stuff. And me and you are big Star Wars fans, and we send funny Star Wars shit. And I just like to hear some inspiring quotes sometimes from, the older generation that's passed, and just peace. Just, I don't know, watching a good old school movie that we watched in the
Mhm.
90s and the early 2000s that were just stupid funny. But it was just good, funny movie, and you just laugh at it. I don't need to go online and debate with 18 people why I think the movie's funny, and they can say it's racist, it's sexist. I don't care. I like it. It makes me laugh. It gives peace. I don't need to justify my movies and music and my lifestyle and the truck I like or the motorcycle I drive. I don't care if anybody else doesn't like it. I like it. It's my piece. That's what makes me happy in this life. And that's my walks in the woods, my nature
Yeah.
walks, my going for walks every day is peace. People's like, oh, you could do more. I don't care what you want to do. This is what brings me my peace is walking with my music on and with the woods. Everybody's walking their dogs. I don't have a dog, but I see all these people, dogs come up to me. I got to know them over time. All these people all the time walking their dogs, and it's just peace. Sometimes I sit on a rock and I just stare at a river. And next thing you know, an hour's gone by and I'm still sitting there like an idiot. But it's peace, you know? And that's all I can tell anybody. Best advice I can say is find whether it's whatever peace gives you, whether it's walking, journaling, exercising, riding a motorcycle, going outside, just sitting in front of a window with the sun just beaming on your face, whatever is your peace, just find it and you'll just be so much happier. You know, like you say, let go of that fist, find your peace.
Yeah, I think, you know, for any listeners that have struggled with feeling unloved or feeling unsuccessful, a lot of the reasons just because we've been putting our time and energy not towards the wrong things, but you know, we've been maybe always saying yes,
Yeah.
right? We've always been giving, and like that's beautiful. I think service to others is a wonderful and such a fulfilling thing, but we have to, you know, kind of remember that in order to feel loved, you have to start to learn to heal and love yourself. In order to be successful, you need to successfully look after yourself. So a lot of the things you're talking about, it always comes back to self-care. So if you're not cutting out some time, and I don't just mean like, hey, today I'd like to get to the gym. No, I want my listeners to schedule that shit like it's a meeting. Right? I don't care. I think that's the biggest struggle for most people is they're not carving out time to do what they need to do. So it's like, okay, well, I know I need to eat better. I know I need to exercise. I know some breath work would really help me with my emotions. Because it could be too, maybe by midday, there develops a pattern where it's like, you know, by midday, I'm always really tense. So what should you schedule midday? Some form of physical self-care.
Yeah.
Right? Go for a walk. While you're walking, do some gratitude. Let's say you don't.
Yeah.
Let's say you're confined to a 6x8 cell like I was. Right? Then do some breath work. Then just set your timer on your watch or on your phone and do some breath work. That's all you got to do. Keep it as simple as you can. Like you said, journal, right? Or do some meditation. Practice a little bit of mindful meditation. There's even apps that can help with that. There's Headspace, I think, and Calm is another one. And that can help guide you through like a little meditation session. And I don't think they're very much. I don't have them myself. But I mean, just something out there for people. Like you don't necessarily have to leave. Again, yeah, maybe you got kids. Maybe you can't step out of the office because you got meetings, but you have a 2-minute window. Okay, then take 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Take 2 minutes and take care of yourself.
Yeah. 2
So
minutes
you're
of
more
water on your
productive.
face. Yeah.
Go to the bathroom, take a breath and splash some cold water on your face. Like, my God, just reset your system.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know it's
You know,
wintertime, and I tell people, like, it's wintertime, it's cold, and you're in the office, just go out the front doors, and you get that shock of coldness, that wind, that whatever, and you're just outside, maybe 30 seconds, it gives you the chill, you know, your goosebumps fire, it almost resets you, you go back in, and you're just like, that's the same as splashing cold water on your face, just getting that hit of cold, kind of shaking it out, you go back in, sit at your desk, and you're just like, okay, you know, like, it's not that bad, or it's that blast of Arctic air. It's the same as splashing water on my face. A little bit of peace. Now I can go, you know?
it's one of the reasons why I love my early morning winter walks.
Yeah, you're
Bringing that
crazy. You
back
do
in
that.
this year. No, but you know, like since I brought that in, it has been such a game changer to how much energy I have in the morning. And it's, you know, I know it's the exercise, but I really think that cold air in the face, first thing in the morning, is that's like the first thing I do. Drink some water, take my morning pills, out the door with my dog. And this past couple weeks has been really cold. Like our January and February this year
Yeah.
have been brutal. It's been so cold. So doing that over the past few months, It's really helped me kind of like just center myself, start my day in some self care, that gratitude while I'm walking, the reflection, the planning, the visualization of what I've got to do, so that I'm just more effective, right? And I'm more capable of handling things that are going to come my way. And I talked about, and you've talked about the breath work. So I'm going to give two really easy examples here for the listeners. So first thing you can do is called belly breathing. So you can inhale for 4 seconds, hold that breath for 7 seconds, and then exhale for 8 seconds. And again, do that for, let's say, 2 to 5 minutes. So that's deep belly breathing. To any of the listeners that want to maybe look it up and get a guide off the internet or something like that. And the next one, the one that I love to use, I actually used it just before my call with you, just before this podcast episode, was box breathing. And it's one that I always give to my clients. And that's simple. It's so 4 seconds in, inhale it into your belly, and then hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then wait 4 seconds before you take your next breath. So those two, and there's other breath work patterns, but just two I wanted to share with the audience that I've used successfully and that other people I know have used successfully. These practices, they help reduce anxiety, right? And it reduces stress. You want something that's going to calm your nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
And
just want people to
yeah,
know
go ahead.
too, it's like people think you and Tyson are the same, it's easy, whatever. We're not. Like Tyson loves his early morning frozen walks. I can't friggin' stand it. I hate going out in the mornings in the freezing cold. So I don't do what Tyson does, but I bought a little step machine downstairs. I'll go downstairs. I walk inside in the winters. I do, different stuff in the winters, but Tyson likes to go outside. I can't stand it in the mornings to go outside and freeze. So I find my peace. Tyson find his. So I just want people to know it's like me and Tyson are very different. We get along in a lot of things, but we're very different for our peace. He likes journaling. I prefer walking nature. He likes his early morning freezing cold. I love my 37 degrees, super hot, sun on my face, walks. We're just
I'd
different, but
rather that too. Don't get me wrong. I would rather a, nice summer, spring, or even fall morning walk. But I found that allowing myself to adapt to that rather harsh environment has
yeah,
been beneficial. And I find just
yeah.
the fact that in my mind, I'm the only lunatic out. Like when I'm walking around in the morning, there's no one else, unless they're taking their dog for a little lap around the park. There's
Yeah,
no one else that's walking when it was minus 36 out here.
yeah,
And you can tell, like, people are just like, what is wrong with this dude? He's not
yeah,
waiting for the bus. He's not walking his dog. Like, no, it's too cold for my dog, but I'll do it.
yeah.
Screw it. I'll do it.
So yeah, I just want to tell people like you don't have to be on the same page as your friend
Absolutely.
or as your trainer. Just find your piece, find what you like, Like if he likes, you know, journaling and you like meditating, do it. Whatever it is that helps you. If he likes walking on the treadmill and you like yoga, then do that. Do the stretching, do the yoga, do the whatever you need you take. It doesn't have to be the same as your trainer or your friend or your other
Absolutely.
friends. Just find your own piece, you know?
I think
And
that's a big problem is everyone listens to the experts. And I'm not saying like it's wrong. I love listening to experts. I love listening to people who are knowledgeable in their field. But then they listen to these experts and they're like, well, I got to do what this person does. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You need to do what you can do, right? Just find something that you enjoy doing. One of the recommendations we're giving now, right? So whether it's journaling, whether it's meditation, whether it's breath work, whether it's maybe emotional check-ins, right? Just little emotional check-ins. Pause throughout the day and assess how you're feeling, right? Ask yourself questions like, what emotions am I experiencing right now? And what's triggering this feeling? Right? Whether it's gratitude, whether it's physical activity, whether it's, it's doing exercise or doing a walk or whatever. Or again, one of the things that you and I have found super beneficial, or whether it's just talking to a good support network. It's having that friend to call, someone that will just listen and hold space for you. Find one of those things. You could technically use all of those things at different points.
yeah,
Self-care it's mental, it's emotional, spiritual, physical, it's social. And what's really cool is, I mean, if you're using, kind of the analogy of a self-care well, if your self-care, and this was my big problem before I started to really work on myself. So prior to going into prison, my self-care literally was just going to the gym, but for the wrong reasons. Even though, like, I know that sounds weird, but I went to the gym because I just wanted to be really strong, and being strong was important because I needed to hurt people. And I wanted to look jacked because I was on a lot of steroids. So I would say that that was probably the wrong reason to go to the gym. I didn't have a healthy, and I think a lot of us can look at what the fitness industry has turned into, the fitness influencers, what it's turned into, and the stupidity that is out there right now, and all these quote unquote so-called experts and what their recommendations are to people. And I just sit there and I'm like, this isn't healthy. For the majority of the population, it's not realistic, it's not healthy, and you have a great body. A lot of these people have phenomenal bodies.
Yeah.
And I think it's now coming more to light, but it's like, do you know what this is this person's full-time job?
Yeah.
And I tell my clients that, like, look, when you're working with me, understand I work at a gym. My office is at a gym. I have no reason not to be in the gym.
Yeah.
My body's my business card. That's why I hold a low body fat percentage. It's a part of who I am. It's part of my identity. It's very easy for me to do, but it's very hard for so many people listening right now to do all these things. So understand, you can only go to the gym so many times in a day. So it's really important that you are able to tap into other avenues of self-care depending on where you are. Because you won't always have that option available. Or maybe you've already used it that day. Like, well, I can't go back to the gym. Well, then what else can you do?
Yeah.
Right? Control the controllables. So before we wrap up, Jay, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, that was good. I just want to tell people it's like you and I fully understand it's not a I was going to say get rich quick scheme, but it's like, it's not fast. It's not going to
Yes.
happen
Yeah.
overnight. You're going to struggle with this for months, maybe even years to break the cycle of childhood or your job or whatever. It's going to take a long time. But if people want to reach out or people need help or people need a bit of push or whatever, I mean, that's why when you asked me, you want to start this podcast to help and maybe educate and stuff like that. And so people don't take 50 years like me to break a cycle, or 49, 7 years you are?
No, I'm 45. Thanks. Look, we don't have good facial cream products in prison, okay? Like we don't even have like sunscreen, okay? All right. So like, I get it. I got some lines. All right. I had a post that went kind of viral on TikTok I was like, I'm talking to the audience. I'm like, yeah, you know what? At 45 years of age, and I'm talking to the young guys, and then all these young kids come in the comments, 45, brother looks like he's in his 60s. I'm like, mother, like what? I'm laughing though. I'm like, oh my God. These kids chirping me in the comments. Like, I feel like I'm the set, what is it? The Muppet Show. And like the two old guys up in the stands.
The
So I felt like
judges.
these kids are like up in the stands, like just chirping me, but anyways, I thought it was pretty funny.
But yeah, I just want people to know it's, if you listen to us or try to do a little bit of something we're saying, whatever, then, you don't wear the stress on your face like me and you have, and you don't,
Yeah.
wear it on your bodies and wear it. If you get rid of that, you can be at peace and open up and enjoy life and youth and everything.
Hey, these
else,
are just character lines, okay? Just my inner character coming out.
Yeah, I know this is just like wings of wisdom. I call it the gray hair.
Wings of wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think mine migrated to my back. I think it ran away from my face. Anyways, but yeah, no, you're absolutely right, brother. And it is important for the audience to understand this is a process. It's a long process, right? And it's so important to visualize. I always think of the time I visualize in myself, right? Is I knew I wanted my freedom. And I want our listeners to picture what freedom, and again, this isn't a literal physical freedom, well, maybe to a degree, maybe losing weight, right? But the freedom of the self-imposed prison, the limitations we've placed upon ourselves. What does that look like? What do you want that to look like? Who do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years? And how are you going to make that person a reality? Right. I've been disappointing myself, and so many people are disappointed with where they are. I'm a failure. I'm a failure. Okay. Shut up and do something about it.
Yeah.
Stop talking about it. You're not happy? Okay. Then bookmark this shit and start working. Start putting in work and start building a new identity. Start working towards the person that you were always meant to be. And we talked about this. I think it was the last podcast. Kill your doppelganger.
Yeah.
There's two parts of you. There's one that you currently are. You have to wake up every morning and kill that person in order to start working and becoming the person you were always meant to be. So as always, we want to empower you, our listeners, to take a proactive step in managing your emotions and improving just your overall mental well-being. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll be back next week with another episode. Thank you.